Hello, and welcome to the Gaia Daily for May 7th through 10th, 2019. I'm Adrienne Elise. Well, the title of this next period of days is Shaking the Tree. And what are we talking about here? There is a lot of shaking going on in our reality, in our patterns, in our karmic patterns, in our physical body. And there are so many transits happening in the sky. The planets are just bopping around and creating some chaos in our lives. So what we have been feeling is this Mars square Jupiter. Now, we started feeling this at the beginning of May. So we have kind of a concentrated period of time with a ton of transits going on, which is angular relationships between the planets, and that comes off around the 18th of May. So we've got a couple of weeks here of like just really being in it. And so what does that mean? And so with Mars square Jupiter, this last week, and we also had a very powerful new moon in Taurus on Saturday. This Mars square Jupiter we're going to be feeling here for another couple of days, and Mars wants to go. Mars is our action planet, and in Gemini, it wants to go with a new conceptual reality. A lot of the energy of that Mercury retrograde that happened at the end degrees of Pisces that we're still recovering from and trying to figure out what in the heck that might have meant for us. So Mars is in Gemini, talking about this understanding, this communication, like, who am I? What am I doing? I'm ready to go now. And of course, then it's in square to Jupiter at home in Sagittarius. And Jupiter wants to go too. Jupiter wants to expand and learn and get back on the quest and reach out for the higher knowledge and for the meaning of life and for the inspiration that can keep us going in this realm. And so these planets are in a gridlock, kind of going, how do we do this? And it's saying like, we can't get back on our quest until we allow for this change of our conceptual reality that has to do with letting go of the old age and moving and being ready to move into the new age. So that's kind of the backdrop of everything that's been going on astrologically is, it's time to go and we all feel it, but we're not quite ready. And so there's a whole bunch of factors going on trying to get us ready. And this is this feeling of shaking the tree because the sun's in Taurus, and this, of course, Uranus is in Taurus, and the tree in my mind represents our physical body, right? So Aries is the sign of the seed sprouting and the beginning of life and this essence of impulse towards life and conception. Then Taurus is the next stage where the plant fills out with its physical body and becomes something palpable, physical in this world. So Taurus rules our physical body and our physical reality. And so we've got this Taurus energy going on, which is nice and grounded in a certain way. But with Uranus there, Uranus always brings an energy of disruption. It brings new energy. It has energy of lightning fast change, unexpected energies. And so this is what's going on. And so how is it affecting us? It's affecting our physical body. It's affecting our conceptual reality. It's affecting all these stuck patterns that we have been stuck in for so long. And we are just kind of getting rattled around by the universe right now. So last weekend with this new moon, we had Mercury in square to Saturn and then move into a square with Pluto. Okay, so Mercury and Venus are both in Aries, and that means they're coming into all of the squares with Pluto and Uranus, and hearkening back to the last generation of astrology that we've had of that Pluto-Uranus square that started in about 2011. I went to about 2018, and it's actually still going because Venus and Mars are so activated right now in Aries and coming into this square with these planets. And so first Mercury came in, so for the new moon, Mercury was square to the nodes and square to Saturn and then came into a square to Pluto. And then Venus is on its way through this whole journey, right? Because the reason why this is all so significant is because Saturn is very close to the south node of the moon. And so the south node and the north node of the moon is our future karma. The south node is what's holding us back. And so Mercury in square to the nodes that we were feeling in this last week was kind of about this new conceptual reality and what do we need to change in our belief system, in our thinking, to be able to shake off the old and move into the new. And so now we have Venus coming up now, and then after, so these planets then they move out of Aries and will conjunct Uranus. Okay, so they're coming up with this square to Saturn, square to Pluto, conjunction with Uranus, and square to the nodes, all in one couple of weeks. And we are getting put through the ringer with all of this. And it is this karmic purge. We're still having that energy. It's like a squeezing energy and a feeling of popping a zit, maybe, like releasing some toxins. So there's a lot of physical detox going on right now. As Taurus rules the physical body, Mars is activated, also rules the physical body. And we are having a shakedown in our physical body. So some people are having a lot of physical detox. It's a really great time to go easy with really gentle, nourishing foods and liquids. And then we're also having this karmic purge, and we're having a psychic purge, and the whole collective consciousness is trying to have a psychic purge. And it's just really overwhelming energy. If you're a sensitive person, and it's hard because there's not a lot of validation for what this is and what you're feeling and what's happening. It's invisible, right? And a lot of people are still in denial of these changes. And so it's kind of like walking around in a strange world of the dead. And it's like, does anybody else notice what's going on here? If you do notice and you're feeling it, that means you're being called to hold space for it, to find that bigger picture, to find that connection to your higher self, to know that this is about a shake-up and not a breakup. It's like we are not breaking apart, we're being put back together. And sometimes you have to get shaken. If everything was just hunky-dory and all copacetic, then you wouldn't be able to grab a hold of your power. So this is what's going on. We are being given an opportunity to take back our power in a huge way, which is this Capricorn energy. And this astrology continues for the next year and a half. And so we're having this kind of rattling around energy as first Mercury made that square to the nodes and to Saturn and then to Pluto and then a conjunction with Uranus, and then Venus is going to do all that together. And so it's saying, why can't we move forward? What's holding us back? What is the karma here? Why won't our world change? What is the wall we're coming up against in our life that is that impossible belief system that we've been blaming everybody else for, but it's like programming in our field, right? Like everything is coming up in our face right now as these changes are happening. And so right now, today, Venus is in square to the nodes. And so it's bringing up a lot of feelings around, do I deserve the new? And it's kind of like, well, no, not for me. It's just easier probably just go along the way it's been. And, silly me to dream a dream of something bigger and greater, because it's like, all the action planets are in squares right now, and so it's like that squares have this tension of coming up against the corner, and it feels like a dead end, but it really is required that you turn the corner, right? And until you start to turn, you don't even realize it's a corner. We're like feeling around in the dark, This is how it's been with all the Neptune transits too. Just like feeling around in the dark and trying to figure out, wait, is there a corner? Is this the end? Is this the beginning? Where am I? What am I doing? And so now we're getting a wake-up call. Come out of the confusion and shake ourselves. Let this shakedown happen and move into this new energy. And so also, today and tomorrow, Venus is in square to Saturn. So the same thing that Mercury was doing just a few days ago, and then squaring Pluto. So it's the shake-up, wake-up call. And it's interesting because the other thing that's going on is that the North Node for these next couple of days is in sextile to the Sun, or the Sun is in sextile to the North Node. Sextile is a very creative energy and a solution. It's like not the next sign, but the next sign over. And they have an affinity because they're either a male or a female sign. And so it's like, we can do this. There's creative solutions. We can handle this. We can do this. And so what's the message here? The shakedown is happening. It's real. Karmic collapse of the structures of our life that we've been so used to for so long. Excuse me. And now we have a very powerful message. Now the Sun is our identity. It's in Taurus. So we're talking about self-worth, abundance, enjoying what we need to survive, and the comforts of life. And of course the feelings of whether or not we deserve those things. And in sextile to the North Node in Cancer, it's like, the North Node is our future karma. How are we going to get there? In Cancer, it's talking about nurturing, the lack of nurturing, the need for nurturing. So we need a new identity based on a more nurturing world and based on a more nurturing inner world. So the energy around everything right now is like that's can surround us if we allow it to, is this great mother energy. It's like, yeah, it's time to shake up the old. You cannot stay in this stuck place anymore. And the medicine here, the solution here is self-care, nurturing, taking care of yourself, allowing for yourself to be the temple, to host your light, and finally put yourself first and prepare the ground for what's being planted. And telling the universe. So part of the deal, I call it like radical self-care, because when you make an action to the world around self-care, taking something that makes you feel really good and nurtured and loved, and you make that choice for yourself, every time you do that, it's a powerful message to the universe that says you're ready to nurture your inner gifts that want to come home and land. And is that what this is about? Is that what this power shakedown is about? Taking our power back, rattling the cage of our existence, shaking the tree. Now, the tree also represents our lineage. And the North Node in Cancer is speaking to the path of the DNA through generations and experiences over time. It goes through the matriarchal line. And so when we're going to do deep ancestral work, we go through that matriarchal line. And so that's where the shakedown is happening in our ancestral belief systems and programming, who we are, who we've been told we are, who we really are. And that's where we have to be, undo all of the stories around we don't deserve to treat ourselves in a way that can support a healthy life and true expression of our gifts and skills, right? I mean, I just, almost everybody I work with really has this deep desire, these type of souls, to do what they're here to do, fulfill their mission, their purpose, to creatively express themselves, to bring forward their gifts, right? And we're coming to the end of the road on whether or not you can do that without some radical change in your attitude towards yourself and treating yourself. Like, what happens if you acknowledge these gifts that you have? You've worked for them many lifetimes and evolutions way before you even came to the earth. But they need a temple. They're like a sensitive, they've been persecuted. It's this little girl, little child inner child, inner little boy part of ourselves that feels very vulnerable. And so we need to prepare the ground, build a temple, and so that that part of ourselves, this innocence, knows it's safe to come home. And every time we exercise self-care, even though it might feel selfish, it might feel like you don't deserve it, and you should probably work harder, and you should probably give to other people first, and all that stuff. But really, when we do this, we're saying to the universe, I'm ready to nurture myself, and I'm ready to land these gifts home, and I'm ready to create that temple and honor the sacred divine that is who I am, my birthright, and is wanting to land here, right? And so that requires a shakedown in a lot of the belief systems that we've been taught, like that come through, particularly on the mother lineage, around our self-worth and whether or not we deserve. And in a patriarchal society, it's based on your outside manifestation, what you look like, what you create in the physical world, the money you have, and the possessions you have, and the degrees you have, and then we'll give you some, you can, you're a valid person. And we're all valid, and we all have so much inside of us, especially you souls that are called to listen to this work. And it's time to get on board with the Great Mother and the Divine Feminine that wants to birth a new age of humanity, and recognize that you're here as part of that process, almost like a midwife. And first you have to feel like you're all alone, you're carving the way, you're bringing in this new energy, and it feels like you're just all alone out there fighting on the front lines, I know, but you're actually carving the way so that it's easier for people to come behind you and do it. And when you move through these energies into a higher vibrational place and let go of these contractual stuff, the family lineage stuff, the programming that might be holding you back from who you really are, you're going to feel lighter and you're going to feel freer. A lot of times we feel most restricted and most uncomfortable when these patterns are trying to leave our field, right? So remember that. This is a detox period of time, and it's going to go through that May 18th when Venus comes into its conjunction with Uranus. Now, then we will have Mercury and Venus in the sign of Taurus. And so we will be kind of achieving a little bit of more of a grounded feeling. May is an intense month because we have Saturn and Pluto as close as they're going to get, 2 degrees apart for a whole week. And that's starting in the middle of May. So I'll be back with some updates, but we are going to feel a little bit more grounded in the process as these planets move into the sign of Taurus. As we get closer to the middle of the month. But it's a karmic squeeze and a breakdown and a shakedown of everything of all the false concepts that are holding you in that place of stasis, that place of stuckness. And, one step on the way out of there and you feel much, much better. And that's what this shakeup is about. It's time to move and groove and let it go and shake it off and love and honor who you really are and make space for that in your life by building that temple. So hang in there. We're going through it, but we're going through it together, and I will be back with updates as we move through this really potent and powerful month of May 2019. So until next time, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.